Prime Minister Carney and all of Canada continues to put the screws into Donald Trump, and they are twisting it. After a massively successful meeting at the European Political Community Forum in Yerevan, Armenia, Prime Minister Carney had a message to the entire world. In times of crisis, Canada, not the United States, is here as a reliable partner, a predictable partner leading the free world. Listen to what Prime Minister Carney said moments ago. Let's play it.
And Tony and I have known each other for a bit, but when we last saw each other was in October in Kuala Lumpur for ASEAN. And we were discussing the various crises that we'd been through in the past, financial crises, COVID. And we discussed how best to respond to a world that's changing even more dramatically in many respects than then. And we shared a vision of deepening ties between those countries that in this crisis that we're still living through are choosing to build in the face of adversity. Countries that have the confidence to open up, to link their economies, to invest in their workers, to move forward, not turn back. And I emphasized to Tony that Canada is once again building big at home and creating reliable partnerships abroad, including very much with ASEAN. So Tony, thank you. Thank you for the trust you're placing in Canadian workers, in Quebec, in Mirabel. You're choosing the best at exactly the right time.
Now, Prime Minister Carney was also talking about a major announcement today, a huge investment from Air Asia going to Canada to buy its next fleet of planes, 150 Airbus A220s and 300 aircrafts, bringing thousands of jobs potentially to Quebec. I want to show you as Prime Minister Carney talks about how the rest of the world is now looking to Canada for innovation, for aircraft, for manufacturing. And by the way, don't sleep on the fact that Prime Minister Carney was really a major leader at the ASEAN conference several months back, showing real leadership there with Asian countries. No wonder Malaysia Air Asia wants to do business. Play this clip.
How do we convince companies to invest in Canada? A couple of things. One is that our country has twice the rate of investment, foreign direct investment, than the United States, adjusted for the size of our population, twice the rate. We're at the highest level of foreign direct investment in Canada for 20 years. What you're seeing today, thank you, grâce aux travailleurs et travailleuses ici,
thanks to the workers and innovators here and Airbus.
Confidence in the innovation and commitment of the Quebec government, but of the workers here. How do you convince? How do we continue to convince and continue to increase that investment? Connectivity, to borrow Tony's word, those trade deals, those 20 deals, the deal with ASEAN, the deal with India, moving forward like that. Confidence, le mot de Madame la Première Ministre du Québec,
the term used by the Premier of Quebec, bold action. This is the time to be bold.
Big, to have confidence, move forward, open up. That's what we're doing, and we'll continue to get that investment despite the efforts of the Americans. Thank you.
So then that brings me to, I thought, a pretty incredible meeting by Canada's Finance Minister, François-Philippe Champagne. And here he talks about deepening ties with Europe and how Canada now sees itself very much as a partner of Europe. Here, play this clip.
I think it starts with values. I mean, I am one of the first, or the first finance minister that has been invited to what they call ECOFIN. So it's the finance minister of Europe, or the Eurogroup, which is obviously those countries use euro. And the reason why is that they want a transatlantic voice to the table. And they see Canada as that voice. That is fascinating. I went to the Eurogroup, and in a purely Canadian fashion, but a bit humble. Like, first time they invited Canadian ministers, they said, "Do you mind to go first?" I said I would have been quite okay to go even after. I'm just the newest invitee to your table. But he said, no, everyone wants to hear the transatlantic view first. And I think it just gives a sense of a world where Canada because we're always at the big table, the G7, the G20, la Francophonie, Commonwealth. I mean, we're all at these big NATO. I mean, you add on, there's a sense that people want to hear from us. They want to know where we're going, how we see the world. And there's something inspiring about that, that they're very keen to engage in a transatlantic way and see Canada at this particular moment in history as the voice at the table, aligned with values, aligned in democracy, aligned in how we want to shape the world together, and still committed to multilateralism, still committed to institutions, because that's how Canada has been thriving for decades. So I would say it's very empowering when you hear colleagues to say, we want to hear from you, and you being Canada at the table and what you're doing. And obviously it goes to energy, it goes to critical minerals, go to all things, but I think it starts with values. They really like what this country is about.
More from the finance minister here. Let's play it.
I've never been more confident in Canada. I've never been more confident in Canadians. I've never been more confident in what we can achieve as a nation. Like I said, Canada is blessed by resources. Canadians are resourceless people. Canada is inspiring in so many ways at a time where the fog of uncertainty is wrapping this world. So I always say, let's seize the moment, let's be ambitious, and let's build this Canada strong all together.
He continues and talks about how Canada was smart for not doing trade deals with Donald Trump. Let's play it.
Like I said, you have sectorial issues which are very concerning. People say, oh, we want certainty. But what is certainty today? And what's the cost of certainty? Now, some of our allies went and had agreement. Good for them. I keep saying we have one, and signed by the president himself. But look at what happened over the weekend. You might be in Europe and say, we have an agreement. Oh, there's 25% tariff on cars made in Europe. Who saw that coming? So my point is that I always say, be careful, how you approach that, because I think being strategic, insisting on getting the right deal as opposed to a deal, has served Canada well. Everyone would want certainty. Everyone. I'm the first. Everyone in this room, your clients, your partners want that. But what is certainty today in a world where there is a level of unpredictability, despite the fact that you may have an agreement in your hand that you cherish? We all have seen, there's a chart we published, or I think was the IMF, where you see the tariff variation over a period of time for countries around the world. And it's really a chart like that. So my point is that the kind of volatility we have seen, I think the way we have approached it as being strategic for Canada, I understand the need and the wish for certainty, but I would always caution, getting something quick might not give you the kind of certainty that people are wishing for.
And he talks about how this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Canada. That yes, Canada is under attack by Donald Trump and his despicable regime, but Canada should see this as an opportunity. Play this clip.
The fundamentals of Canada are strong. Let me take maybe 30 seconds for that. But you look at, for example, we have the most educated workforce in the world. And I would say to you that immigration is still seen in this country as a positive. Find me a country in the world where people talk like that this has enriched our society, that has enabled to be who we are today. Look at a country in the G7, don't need to look at many, that can produce a plane from start to finish, that can produce a car from start to finish, that can produce a ship from start to finish. There's not that many. Then you look at critical minerals, and you say, who has critical minerals amongst the G7? There's not that many. And critical minerals, people would say, are akin to oil in the 20th century. Because critical minerals are about everything in the 21st century. Then you look at energy. People would say demography is destiny. I'd put it to you, energy is destiny. Producing energy. We are a pillar when it comes to conventional energy, when it comes to renewable, when it comes to nuclear. Can do, to name one, which is used around the world and people are more interested. And lastly, we're the only G7 country with a free trade with all the other G7 nations. that give us preferential market access to 1.5 billion people around the world. When you look at that, and trust me, when you sit at the G7 table, people look at you and they say, we are in an enviable position. I think this is once in a generation opportunity for this country to really do the work that we need to do, that we talked about, and open ourselves to the world at a time where the world is craving for a predictable, stable, and sustainable partner that can be with them for generations to come or decades to come. And I think this is our moment.
Okay.
He goes on to talk about how Canada is not immune to what's happening in the world. Thus, Canada must lead. Play this clip.
Canada is not immune to what's happening in the world. I mean, we have learned that to COVID and other crises, what's going on in the Middle East. We're not immune. So you have to look in relative term and absolute terms to say, where do we fit in that? But when you say that, I don't think, I was at the G7 and the Vice Chancellor of Germany, Finance Minister, is in town this week. We were kind of comparing notes, you're looking at that. Our growth is twice as much as Germany, twice as much as Japan, 3 times Italy, faster than the UK, faster than France. So what I say, growth does not happen just by magic. Growth happens because you take policies, and I'll stop there to refer to what the IMF director said. She really said when we were there last time, there's only 2 countries in the G7 who has the fiscal capacity to invest. It's Canada and Germany, because we're the only 2 with a AAA credit rating. But she said, if you're smart enough to invest in growth enhancing activities, you'll see that in the revenues. And she mentioned infrastructure. She mentioned housing. She mentioned productivity and innovation. And I think that's the path that we have, taken, while at the same time focusing on affordability. Because if you and I went out of this room and I did media, it's the concern is housing, it's grocery, and it's gas. So that's also the reality we have to take care of.
In a very uncertain world, Canada's finance minister talks about how Canada can be the lighthouse. I like that expression. A lighthouse for the entire world. Let's play it.
It is a very uncertain world, but Canada is kind of a lighthouse. When I compare ourselves to other G7 nations, we are on solid grounds. The fundamentals are strong. IMF would say we have the strongest fiscal position of any G7 country. Our growth is twice as much as most G7 countries. If you exclude the United States, we're growing twice as much. We're faster than any European colleagues, twice as much as Germany.
Then he gave this interview as well on Canadian TV. Let's play it.
And this is just about an announcement that was made earlier by Prime Minister Carney in Armenia. $270 million more to invest toward Ukraine. $26 billion in total, because Ukraine, we stand shoulder to shoulder with them as they try to fight off this Russian invasion. However, at this point in time, is there a moment where there are funds that can be taken from investments that are made internationally to hold here in Canada, whether it's for affordability or just for Canadian?
I think you need a balance there. We can do 2 things at the same time. We can invest at home, but also support our friends who are fighting for democracy. They're fighting for dignity. They're fighting for all of us. And this has been a terrible conflict. And I think at a time like that, I think it's part of our values as well to stand with our partners and allies around the world.
And then more from Prime Minister Carney, briefly speaking with reporters ahead of the Liberal caucus meeting. Let's play that as well.
Obviously, there's challenges with the U.S. tariffs, unjustified tariffs in the auto sector. We continue to work with companies in the sector, helping them reposition, reinvest, supporting workers there. We'll continue to do what's necessary, including getting the right deal that's in Canada's interest.
You worried about Honda?